Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another presentation of But, a new work of music and fiction by the Holy Gasp, co-composed by myself, Benjamin Hackman, and Robert W. Stevenson. This evening's presentation will be produced by Sandro Pehar with additional web development by Sandy Feldman. We wish to express our humblest thanks to the Board of Directors at the Historic Kiever Synagogue, where I am presently composer in residence. We thank them for allowing us to premiere this live stream in their basement this evening. If you enjoyed the show, we ask you to please go over to www.theholygasp.com and make a donation to the Holy Gasp and, if you can, to the Historic Kiever Synagogue as well. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you that But will be premiering, will be released tomorrow, March 30th, everywhere online music is sold and streamed. Because earlier this afternoon, there were some technical difficulties and the audio was a little poor, we have elected to do our Q&A once again if there is interest. So after the performance, please do stick around. I'd like to introduce my co-composer and bandmate, Robert W. Stevenson. And without further ado, this is But. In the beginning, each was void and without form, and the woman moved in, sold her condo, quit her job, and said, "Let there be laughter." And the day was not yet separate from the night, and heaven and earth were one. But the Lord did not see that it was good, and soon after there came a great flood of tears. The Lord said, "I shall blot out that which I have created." He does do such things, you know. It is written in the book of Jeremiah that the heart is deceitful and without cure. And perhaps this is why couples counseling was so ineffective. The man and woman fought daily, called each other terrible names, ridiculed each other's habits, and demanded changes each was unwilling to make. Some have said it was the fear of breaking up that kept them together and led to their betrothal and marriage. Others have called it a miraculous achievement that two people should believe so strongly in their love to have tried what they tried at all. Our story begins on one particularly unusual evening. Unusual in that dinner time was fast approaching, and there had been not a single fight all day. When the woman had finished preparing dinner, she lit 2 candles and dimmed the lights, took her apron off, and walked into the living room where her husband was playing the piano. She touched him gently on the shoulder, and from this touch he ascertained that dinner was ready, and walked with her into the kitchen to eat. It was a delicious meal, especially the soup, and the couple ummed the one ums when soup is delicious. After they'd eaten, the man cleared the table and put the kettle on. And when he returned, he took his wife's hand in his own and again ummed. And the woman ummed too. And the couple was happy. After some time, the man finally said, "What if we just stopped talking altogether? What if we never said another word?" "We couldn't stop talking altogether," said the woman, though she was not entirely against the idea. "Why not?" asked the man. "Without words, there can be no arguments, isn't that so?" "But what about at work?" asked the woman. "Or amongst our families? What would my father think?" "When we're together," said the man, "only when we're together." "How would we communicate?" asked the woman. "Facial gestures," replied the man, as if it were obvious. "We'll point to things and for one another." His eyes lit up with enthusiasm, and the woman could see this was no joke. "But can't convey everything," said the woman. "It can," protested the man, "with the proper intonation." And the woman said, to show that she understood. "You see," said the man. "I do," said the woman, "but..." She furrowed her brow and looked down at her hands. "I'd miss your voice," she said, looking up to meet her husband's eyes. "You speak so eloquently. It's one of the things I love about you." "I use big words to make you feel little," said the man. "You hate the way I speak, and you have for a long time." The kettle came to a boil and whistled. The woman got up from the table to take it off the stove. She filled a teapot and said sadly, upon returning to her chair, "You do make me feel little, but I would miss not being able to tell you I love you." "Do you love me?" asked the man. "Of course I do," said the woman. "How can you ask?" "That's my point exactly," said the man. "It is as unnecessary for me to ask as it is for you to answer. What is there that must be said amongst two people in love? For everything pleasurable there is an and for everything else there is silence and distance and time." "But not everything is pleasurable," said the woman. "But everything in our marriage can be," said the man. "What if it doesn't work?" asked the woman. "Then we'll suffer as we always have," said the man. "Or break up," said the woman. And so it was that became the first word, and the couple saw that it was good. After some time, the man touched his wife on the back of her hand and raised his eyebrows, and the woman to show she understood. They went into the bedroom and closed the door. The woman said the man did too, and the couple was happy. In the morning, they woke in silence. The man left the house to buy a newspaper and returned with flowers. The woman accepted the flowers warmly, said and embraced her husband, who as well, and the couple was happy. Months passed in this way. Things which once aggravated the man, the way his wife spoke to herself while she cooked or lacked the assertiveness to hang up on a telemarketer, were no longer aggravating. They became distant memories to the man of problems no longer relevant, for the woman did her chores in silence and never answered the telephone again. And the couple was happy. Things which once embarrassed the woman, her husband's tendencies to complain throughout movies, or the way he chastised waiters for bringing appetizers at the same time as a main course, no longer embarrassed her. At restaurants, her husband pointed to items on a menu. If a waiter understood, the man said, and if a waiter did not, the man ummed twice, each quicker than a typical and the second in immediate succession of the first. The man would say, and all was understood. What the couple ordered they ate in silence, and if a meal was delicious they might have chosen to though often did not, for in those days there did not exist an to express non-deliciousness, and if one was unhappy with a meal the other never ventured to find out, and the couple was happy. Once, at the movies, the woman's cousin spotted the couple and called out their names. When her cousin approached, the woman simply kissed her on the cheek, held her husband's hand tightly in her own, and smiled. And her husband smiled too. And who cannot smile back at a couple so plainly in love and happy? And so the woman's cousin smiled as well, and all three said and the couple left without saying goodbye, and no one was offended or wished they could have said more. And the couple was happy. What the man did at work was largely unknown to the woman. What the woman did at home was unknown to the man, and neither ventured to speak to find out. They neither hosted parties nor attended them, declined invitations to family affairs, and avoided going anywhere together where speaking could not be avoided. The man was denied a promotion after declining an invitation to a double date with his boss's new girlfriend. The woman's mother fell down a flight of stairs and broke her neck, was sent to hospital and lost the ability to feed herself, walk, or use the bathroom on her own. But the woman never received the phone call or spoke much to her family anymore, and so never found out, and the couple was happy. Then, one night, the couple got into bed, and the woman turned out the light before the man was able to raise his eyebrows. She turned her back to him and pulled his arm over her body. The man squeezed his wife and held her close, and the woman mmm'd. But when the man reached between her legs, she stopped mmming and squeezed her thighs together. The man grabbed his wife by the hip and pressed himself against her to make her aware of what was happening in his body. But the woman straightened her legs so that she could not be so easily pressed against. The man twisted his face in a knot and rolled over on his back. He took his wife's hand under the cover, and the woman wished for the courage to let go, but feared the man's reaction and so tried to sleep. But the man could not sleep. He took his wife's hand and placed it on that part of himself which he had previously pressed against her, and the woman jerked her hand away and tucked it under her body. The man sat up and shouted, "Ugh!" and slammed his fist against the mattress. And the ugh was so loud and terrifying that the woman buried her face in the pillow and covered her ears and cried. The next day, the woman woke before the man, dressed quietly, and went into the bathroom. She ucked at the toothpaste in the sink. She ucked at the towels on the floor. She ucked at the empty toilet paper roll which had not been thrown out nor replaced. She went downstairs into the kitchen to start breakfast, but ucked when she found there was no bread, nor bacon, nor eggs. When the man came down for breakfast, he ucked to find that a bowl of bran flakes was all his wife had prepared for him. And the woman grabbed the bowl and dumped it in the sink with a loud and angered ugh, and ran up the stairs, ucking. And the man ucked at his wife from the bottom of the stairs and left for work without breakfast, slamming the door behind him. That night he came home late from the office, smelling of whiskey. And so it was that ugh became the second word. Still, the man and woman did not speak, for in the time since they had stopped speaking to each other, the relationship had certainly improved. And if it hadn't, neither said a word about it, and the couple was happy. One day, the doorbell rang, and the man answered to find an elderly man with a crooked spine and a knee that bent so far inward that even to stand without a cane was impossible. Nonetheless, this elderly man had managed to climb the concrete steps to the house on his own. And though he was quite a bit smaller, he grabbed the man by the collar of his shirt and shouted, "Where is she? Where the hell is my daughter?" And the woman, having heard the doorbell ring and the sound of her father's voice, came running down the stairs to her father, who told the woman bluntly, "Your mother is dead." The woman wanted to cry out, "But how? But what do you mean?" But she could not speak, for her husband was present. And she looked at her husband, and she looked at her father. And it was not until her father broke down crying that she shouted, "Ugh!" But the word was all wrong. She tried desperately to express through gestures of the eyes and awkward mm-ms all that she felt, but her father could not comprehend any of it. When the woman began to weep, her husband placed his hand knowingly on her shoulder, and tenderly he said, "But." And the woman butted. And standing there in her husband's arms, she wept, "But. And so it was that but became the third word. The woman went to the funeral without her husband, and neither spoke of the sadness she felt nor the guilt that burdened the man. Gradually, the woman stopped cooking, then cleaning, and gained 30 pounds. Her husband's hair fell out, and he gave up playing the piano, and the couple was happy. When the funeral was over, the woman plugged the answering machine back in, and though a but was occasionally uttered in the months to follow, little was heard throughout their happy home. It had been a very long time since either had mm'd, and even longer since one had uched in the presence of another. For as it is well understood, one provokes another, and such uching has been known to have no end. And so it went that the man and woman ate frozen dinners together in silence, and fell asleep most nights with the television on, and the couple was happy. Then, one day a rainbow appeared in the sky, and a dove lit down on the windowsill in the kitchen. Each saw the little bird and smiled, and they held each other, mming. The man emptied the dishwasher, which had not been emptied since the funeral, and the woman swept the living room and shook out the rugs. By the end of the morning, the house was clean, and the woman made a brunch with a tablecloth and orange juice served in tall-stemmed glasses. Afterwards, they took a long walk through the neighborhood and bought one milkshake with 2 straws and mm'd all the day long. And the couple was happy. In the evening, they closed the bedroom door, and the man's rising eyebrows did not go unnoticed. The woman said, and the man mm'd too, and the couple was happy. In the morning, the woman woke before her husband, mming. Wishing to share an with her husband, she tickled him. When the man opened his eyes, he found that his wife was smiling, and he mm'd until the woman tickled him some more, and his smile abruptly faded. He uched, though he wished he hadn't, and squirmed to get away. The woman, amused by her husband's impersonated his uching and tickled him some more. The man butted, for never before had an been uttered with a smile. He butted, and all this butting amused the woman further, and she puffed out her cheeks and clownishly butted, until finally her joy became too great, and she burst out with a word wholly foreign to the couple. Ha! The man butted. He mm'd. He uched. But still, the woman insisted. Ha! The man tried with what limited language he had to explain that ha was not necessary, for humor is only an extension of and is sufficient without ha, but the woman just hud. She tried to encourage the man to ha with her. She waved her hands back and forth, dancing and making silly faces, but the man just grew angry and uched, which caused the woman to ha louder and louder until she could no longer breathe nor open her eyes, and her diaphragm ached so hard that no sound whatsoever escaped her. And so it was that ha became the 4th word. And the woman packed up her belongings and moved out that morning. And the couple was happy. And they never spoke again.